again. So this people speak out maybe in two chunks. And let's come to the amazingly wonderful, vibrant, and resonant Sass.
How very kind. Thank you, Rachel. Lovely to see you back. I was a little bit on the jealous side seeing you in Spain in your lovely retreat with all those gorgeous people, all shining their beautiful bright light. Not so sure I appreciate your residue from your cambo. That was hilarious. Did make me laugh. Your little picture of your purge. Um, so it's been quite an interesting weekend. There's a lot of shifting energies, especially with the female. There's all sorts of stuff coming up with all the women in my family. It's quite interesting, if not sort of difficult to navigate when you're that closely involved. But what I noticed over the weekend was this escalation of the waking up with the most outrageous things going on. Did anyone hear about in Australia, the 95-year-old woman who was on a walking frame who got tasered by the police? I mean, honestly, they said, she had a knife in her hand, but she had to hold on to this frame as she was walking along. And they said she was wielding a knife. 95 and she got tasered. And obviously it was last week, the week before, there was the awful tasering of the dogs. And then I watched a fascinating documentary last night about Julian Assange. Did anyone else watch it? It was absolutely outrageous. So his father has been campaigning, and his fiance, to obviously stop the extradition. He'd been extradited to America because where they want to put him is likely. He said he's not going to stay on the planet if that happens, because it's just so horrendous. And the poor, when you hear what's happened to this guy, I mean, it really highlighted. Obviously, we've heard lots about Julian Assange, but actually hearing it from his family perspective, it's the most outrageous thing. So this guy, obviously Julian, he run WikiLeaks, where he had this Dropbox for people to drop information anonymously into about anything that was going on that we should know about as a democracy. And he basically, the information that came out was about the war crimes during the Iraq War, and also crimes against humanity in general, and how he released some footage was released of some Americans actually shooting a group of journalists and actually killing some of them. And it's getting more and more outrageous. But when you look at the fact is that the American government, or whoever is, got a hold over the American government, they absolutely refuse point blank, and they're going like literally dogs down a rabbit hole to make sure that he gets extradited. So literally they were building up this case, and he was literally, but the judge said that he couldn't be extradited, his mental health wouldn't stand it. And the government, the US government, have now appealed to go for him again, and they just won't let it drop. The guy, all he did was expose to the public the horrendous crimes that are going on by our governments, which they're supposed to be appointed by us. We have a right to know. They're the criminals, not Julian Assange. But it's a message, as you were saying, Rachel, about the freedom of speech and clamping down on anything that is exposing the cabal and what is going on. And it was the most heart-rendering. I was just absolutely desperately sad for the whole family, for him, for us, basically, for this guy standing up. So it's a big message to all the other journalists. If you're thinking of exposing us, don't think about it, because look what's happened to him. He's been tortured absolutely horrendously. So that was a really, really indictment of what is going on in terms of the clamping down. And as Brian mentioned, the metaverse is just another layer to disconnect us from our true nature, to layer after layer after layer. Because as you know, Rachel, you've read The Trap, is that we are literally, as you were saying, Kareem, we're decoding this 3D reality from a fourth dimensional program that is basically, we're decoding a false simulation. So even our bodies are literally just waveforms, but we have been hijacked. So we're decoding things in this horrendous situation. Obviously, we've got some brilliant things going on as well, so to bring in the balance. But it's how do we get out of this trap that we're simulating a false reality through the fourth dimension. So even just realizing that our bodies are in our mind, they're not actually physical. It just appears that way. and it's so entrenched, isn't it, or generation after generation. And as many people have now said, that when they cross over to the other side, they see this little white tunnel of light. They see all their relatives calling them maybe their guru or their religious leader, and come this way, come this way. And of course, we're so programmed to follow the light, not the dark. But this basically is an illusion that takes you back into the simulation and recycle back into the loop. And then it goes on and on and on. And then our memory gets wiped so that we don't remember, apart from obviously there's pockets of deja vu where you sort of think, I've been here before, done this before. And children often remember, they seem to have more ability to have remembrance, but basically our memory's wiped. So we just keep coming around and around again. And if we're learning lessons on the planet, why is our memory wiped? Because surely we want to learn from what we've experienced. So the simulation, the meta universe, is just trying to disconnect us into another layer of this false reality. So my question is, or I'm putting it out there, how can we disengage from this very, very sort of ingrained structure that is a false reality that's been hijacked from the original source of the learning plane or the experience in this 3D reality, because that's what makes it so difficult for people, because they have been led to believe the government, the doctors, the educationers, they're all doing it, you know, for our betterment. So we need to hijack and hack back into hack out, if you like, of this false simulation, and not to get too involved in all this meta universe, because once people have got these headsets on where they can literally explore the world through the headsets, this virtual reality, then they're going to be sort of hijacked away from, you know, everything that's true. And you can understand, you can see the kids now, how they're just so absorbed in all these game playing because it seems so real. And they can be transported around the world. They could transport themselves to the Andes or to the Caribbean. And so they'll be happy because they will own nothing, but they will be happy because they're in this false reality. There's just another layer of the trap. So it's just a little warning. But how do we disengage from this fourth dimensional sort of hijack of the mind? That's what I'm putting out there. If anybody's got any good ideas, please put them on a postcard to Sass Bullock at gmail.com. So yes, that was what I really wanted to say. And just another thing, one more thing about vegetarianism. I've been a vegetarian since 1992, stimulated by hearing a baby pig be murdered that sounded like a baby. However, I've noticed a lot of people who've got ill over the years, who have been vegetarians, have gone back onto a meat diet, and their symptoms have been reversed. So again, it's been pushed by the agenda. Vegetarianism, veganism, it's not necessarily suitable for everybody, because I've heard all about the poisons in vegetables, lectins, oxalates, which literally act like razor blades in your gut and cause huge amounts of damage to your gut and make people very ill. So it's like a really difficult to navigate. What is the truth? And I think it just has to be down to experimental with your own body on what sort of serves you, helps you to feel uplifted, and be noticing what foods sort of cause stomach problems or mental health problems, because a lot of it is, again, we're decoding the information through our senses and it's distorted. So again, what's true is, again, having to find out that for you. So it's a bit much down on an individual level. That's what I feel. But I know what you mean. Apparently your blood type determines a lot of what diet suits you or not. And when I looked into my blood type, it said that my blood type was the original vegetarians, but it's not suitable for everybody. And it can make you quite ill if you're not sourcing high protein meat and fish and things. But it's a very difficult one to navigate, because if you don't want to be part of the death ritual of millions of animals across the planet, you have to grow your own animals, I suppose, and do your own sort of, you know, shamanic sort of interaction with animals in a blessing, sacred way. So there's a lot of food for thought there, pardon the pun, but I'll hand you back over to Rachel before I take up the rest of the time.
Thanks, Sass. It's always so wonderful to hear from you, and yeah, thank you for raising those questions. And Brian, I can see you've got your hand up, so we will come to you for the last word. But I would just like to share based on what you said, Sass, because I had a very strong teaching about this, about the false matrix. And this also is a sort of blend of the wisdom of Neville Goddard, who I'd been listening to a lot. The realization that it's all Shakti. It's all Shakti. And no matter how dark it gets, no matter how grotesque it gets, it is all part of the flow of universal energy, and the Shiva is the witness. So when we come into meditation and we slow down, we can really witness. And one of the things that I was shown was that the purpose of the dark Shakti, or you might call it Wetiko, or the Aramaic energy, the evil energy, when it gets that dark, it's because we've strayed from the light. And sometimes it needs to get so dark and ugly and hideous. It's like Kali energy. It can shake us out of our comfortable illusion and remind us, turn back to the light, turn back to the light, when we've fallen into chaos, when the screen of our life is showing the most hideous distortions of ugly destruction, violence, desolation, despair, grief, all of those things. They are all part of our journey and our healing. And personally, I don't hold the view that this is some off-planetary dark force, because all of it was created by God. It's all source energy. And the way that I see this illusion, the Maya, the illusion, and I've been shown, is that it's a magnificent training program in how to be love. And we are all being called to heal at the deepest level, to heal our hearts, so that we can fully feel. And we getting to that point where we've brought our hearts back online, all of that wounding, all of that frozen trauma where we couldn't feel. So sometimes in life, to fully feel again, you need to have something really strong to bring it back online. Like when my boys were taken away from me, I saw this so strongly, that the pain of having my children taken away from me by the system, I can reflect back, and I can feel so much gratitude for that incident, because it was so strong that it took me on a deep healing journey to bring my heart back online. So this is the work, to fully feel. Fully feeling is fully healing. And the more that we feel, the more we can tune in. And the more we tune in, our intuition grows to the point where, like a spider, we can feel everything on the web. Even the tiniest little fly. There's a little fly on my web. There's a little glitch in the matrix. Let me just tune in and slow down and just see and just witness, and just like the weaving and the healing and the soothing, to bring it all back into harmonic resonance. And this is the Christ consciousness. I so clearly saw this. I saw Christ come to me, perfect sacred geometry of the essence of God. And God is love, and love is a perfect harmonic resonance. And this is the beauty of sound healing, because in those Tibetan bowls and in the bells and in the perfect music and the harmonic resonance and the Om, that we're creating perfect sacred geometry. And then when you are experienced of witnessing what perfect sacred geometry feels like, the resonance of perfection, of fully whole, healed, like in nature, when something is perfect, like a perfect flower, then it's very easy to detect when something's out of tune, which is why all of the shamanic musicians, they spend a lot of time tuning their instruments so that they can play in perfect harmonic resonance, so that they're creating perfect sacred geometry, and it's that that creates the healing. It's so, I mean, I just saw the whole of this. And my son came to me and he sat in front of me, and I could see his perfect sacred geometry of the Christ consciousness. And I said to him during one of the journeys, I said, "Oh, do you remember your birth? And I'm so sorry that you had a difficult birth. And do you remember? Do you remember?" And he's like, "Mum, don't worry. I've already healed it." And it was just like, it was just so healing for me to know that he had liberated himself from the horrors of the NHS and the horrors of the unconscious birthing that allows our sons and our children and our daughters, and as mothers, to not have the conscious awareness of how important it is to birth through in the most magical and beautiful way. So what happens is we birth into this world children who are already traumatized, because the NHS birthing process is so traumatic and so hideous that we birth children who are already traumatized, and then we send them into schools where they're trained in this system of winning. And it's just everything, bringing conscious awareness to all of these aspects into pregnancy, into childbirth, into education, so that we can bring into the world healed and whole children whose grid is perfect sacred geometry, and it hasn't been distorted and wounded by this unconsciousness. So anyway, I've gone on a lot and it's 1:04, but as promised, I am going to come to Brian for the last word. 60 seconds from you, Brian. Go. And you will have to unmute. I've just asked you to unmute, sweetie. Brian, we can't hear you. Can you unmute?
All right, is that better?
Yes, right. 60
Got there
seconds
eventually.
starting from now. Go for it.
Well done, Rachel. You're prolific, amazing energy to you and to everyone. You are courageous, putting out the amazing energy. You feel it, don't you? Yes, you're an enlightened human being. I am an enlightened human being as well, but we still live in this three-dimensional world, don't we? And the world crashes in. So we still have to deal with it. And this is stress and trauma. So I'm pushing forward the best I can. Thank you for your amazing support to everyone, your amazing courage. I can't believe you haven't got so much more support. I just think there's so many people sort of in the fear. It is sort of heartbreaking, but you give me courage. So carry on the amazing work, and love to you all. I will be the best I can be here. Yes, I would like to say something about locals. Yes, I am local here, and I've sort of got to win the locals over. And I laugh. I do stand-up comedy. But yes, we all got to do stuff, isn't it? There is good and bad. You have your problems with your locals up there, but you will win them over because you are in the love and the good energy, and the good energy is back. So if the truth resonates, I'm sure that space where you're at will resonate as well, and it resonates with us all over the world. So thank you, Rachel. It's at a minute.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for being succinct. And I would just say that I am absolutely supported 100% by the universe and pantheons of gods and angels and higher dimensional beings. And just think to yourself that Jesus himself think of the waves. They even crucified him for speaking the truth about love. He was nailed to a cross and crucified because he rattled the cage of the establishment back in the day. And
Yes.
so we, as enlightened beacons of light, speaking our truth and resonating at this higher frequency, all of the people, all of the beacons, all of the light bearers, people like Julian Assange, the truth speakers, people like Rashid Buttar, when we get to that point where we're not in any fear, even to the point where we're willing to be crucified, that the false matrix holds no power whatsoever over us because we have no fear. And when we have transcended the contraction of fear, and we can stand in the labyrinth, shining our light in our center without, and in total harmlessness, without having to resort to fight or flight or anger or fear, we just shine our light and hold that resonance. This is the training, and that is invincible. And that is the work. So this is my message, that keep turning to the light. And we are all helping one another to hold that vibration, because it will only take a critical mass and there will be a quantum leap in evolution, at which point it's like the walls of Jericho will come tumbling down when all of the trumpets were sounded. It was vibration that brought the walls of Jericho down. And that is what we are doing. Yes. So this is so beautiful. And it doesn't take, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need all 8 billion people on the planet to get it. This is one of the tricks of the false matrix. It's got to be big to be powerful. You've got to have lots of people to be powerful. No, you only need a small number of highly aligned, highest vibrational people, which is why nature is showing us in every moment, even the tiniest seed, even the tiniest acorn can contain an entire forest. Nature is showing us it doesn't have to be big to be powerful. That's a false matrix program. So even if it's just like me and Bev at Stand in the Park Bakewell, just keep coming, and keeping that flame of truth and freedom and friendship alive. It doesn't matter. We're not attached to numbers, because it's the frequency that's important. So I just wanted to share that, sending you all so much love. And magic is happening. The energy is shifting. There is a awakening of consciousness, a wave across the planet. It is magical, it's alchemical, it's transformational, and it is happening now. So sending you all so much love.
Much sense to me. Yes, it makes perfect sense to me what you're saying. This is why you give me so much hope. And I'm going to push forward as best I can, up in my vibration. And yes, I'm going to reconnect, isn't it? Brush myself off.
Yes.
Get into my breathing, get into my exercise. Amazing what you're doing with that food as well. That is amazing. So thank you,
Brian. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for being for being one of the Knights Templar that is holding the strength for the divine feminine of the Magdalene. So we appreciate all of you Knights Templar men who are holding that strong and gentle masculine energy for us. So thank you. Lots of love to everyone. And have a great day. Okay.
Love.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.